I'm not Sean. In fact, Sean and I have fairly different platforms, as you may have noticed from my YouTube channel name, but what we do share is that we are both principled. And today I want to discuss about one principle that we do share, that everyone should have the right to free speech, including on online platforms like YouTube. To be more specific, I want to discuss the responses from both conservatives and progressives to the silencing of many voices on YouTube. At the end of this video, I created a compilation of where some of the major key political commentators on YouTube stands when it comes to the issue of free speech on YouTube. I want to set the record straight so that you know exactly who supports free speech and who wants to let YouTube take away our freedoms. My name is Kody and I do many videos myself where I give progressive political commentary. I left a link in the description, and I would be grateful if you considered checking out my channel. As many of you already know, Steven Crowder has been completely demonetized on YouTube. And he's not the first, and he's certainly not the last. However, what makes Steven Crowder fairly unique is that he never incited violence. YouTube demonetized him because Steven Crowder spewed hate speech, as YouTube sees it. It's important to know that I recognize that hate speech is very subjective, and so I want to clarify that YouTube believes that Crowder's dialogue is hate speech. The questions we all must ask is, what does free speech really look like? How much free speech should we be allowed to have? And who gets to decide what hate speech is? You should first know where I'm coming from, since many of you might not fully understand my side of the political spectrum. I would classify myself as a libertarian progressive and a social democrat. To summarize what that means, I'm basically a capitalist that believes that the role of government is to secure everyone's human rights, including equal opportunity, but not to be confused with equal outcome. If the government reaches beyond its role in protecting basic human rights, then I believe the government is overstepping its boundaries. One of these human rights that the government should secure includes the right to free speech. In my view, this means that everyone should have the right to be equally heard, and the mechanisms that allow people to be heard, such as social media platforms, should be completely unbiased toward who is speaking. But should everyone be allowed to say whatever they want to say? I believe the answer is no. Certainly telling someone that they should kill themselves is wrong, and that is something that we should all agree on. But what about calling a black guy the N-word? Should we be allowed to call gays queers? Should we be allowed to say that women belong in the kitchen as servants to their husbands? Should we be allowed to say that Jews will not replace us? As crazy as it may seem, this sort of speech should be allowed. In fact, I would argue that this speech is patriotic because it exploits the very boundaries of the freedom of speech. Now, don't get me wrong, this sort of speech is also very deplorable, and I would easily stand up against such hateful words. But I can do that by posting videos on my YouTube channel and teaching people about hateful things that are being thrown around. I would rather have people spew hate on the same platform that allows everyone to protect the oppressed than to have people control what we can and cannot say. If we allow YouTube to tell us what is and is not hate speech, then things could easily get out of hand. And that's what it seems to be happening as you're watching this video. You might say that we should be able to consider hate speech to be as dangerous as inciting violence. However, inciting violence can be understood nearly objectively. Hate speech is far more subjective. If hate speech should be silenced, then who decides what hate speech is? Should this video be considered hate speech because I am throwing YouTube under the bus? You might say no, but YouTube might disagree. In fact, we are getting closer and closer to the point where YouTube is silencing voices simply because YouTube does not want those voices to be heard. That brings us back to Crowder. Crowder was demonetized for hate speech, according to YouTube. Now, you might say that demonetization is not the same thing as silencing. After all, Crowder can still post videos, and so he has a voice, right? Well, now we have to discuss if money influences speech. After the Supreme Court decision over Citizens United, which allowed unlimited contributions to politicians, I think we could probably all agree that money can really distort who is heard and who is not. In my view, to suggest that YouTube's demonetization of Crowder is not silencing is the same thing as saying that the poor and middle class have equal access to be heard by politicians as the rich do. And the latter is definitely not true. So what should YouTube do to fix this? Simple. YouTube needs to stop demonetizing and banning voices for hate speech and allow hate speech on YouTube. Now, I'm okay with limiting certain age ranges from hearing certain oppressive and disgusting voices, but certainly anyone 18 or older should not be limited from seeing voices from all regions of the political spectrum. But what about voices that do incite violence? Consider Alex Jones, who has advocated for harassment of the parents of the victims of the Sandy Hook shooting. Should he be banned? I would argue still no. If I told someone that they should kill themselves, I could go to jail. But I wouldn't go to jail for life, and certainly I would not have the government erase every trace of my past. What should YouTube do about voices that incite violence? I believe that they should delete videos that incite violence, but that the person should never be banned. Let the courts decide what to do with the content on the deleted videos. To put it simply, I do not believe anyone should be banned based off of what they say. I believe that what they say should be banned if what they say incites violence. Alex Jones had many videos, some of which contain material that should be heard. And now he has no social media presence, period. So who should be banned on YouTube? My simple answer is everyone that breaks the terms of service. But those terms of service should allow free speech, with exception to inciting violence, and that no channel should be banned unless they break those terms of service, and any video that contains inciting of violence should be just removed. They shouldn't ban the person. Now, with that being said, many media outlets and political commentators have voiced their opinions. And unfortunately, it seems as though many progressives have encouraged the silencing of conservative voices. Not all, but many. Regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, you should know exactly who has said what and where they stand. Free speech is as important to me as the issue of money in politics, and that's saying quite a lot. You should consider making this a big deal, especially if you listen to any of these voices. Without further ado, here is a compilation of where some of the major key political commentators on YouTube stands.
It's not enough to say, oh, well, we don't directly pay them. You give them a free platform to broadcast to millions of people and then watch them reap the rewards through Patreon or their online merch stores. You are giving these people a weapon to harass them.
He'll start, oh my God, I'm being censored. This isn't about me, but I'm being censored. You're such a little crybaby, okay?
Good save.
And so, but also there is an issue here because all of these all of these platforms need to be extremely clear in what their policies are, and then they have to apply those policies consistently.
I do appreciate what you're saying, and I agree with you to a certain extent.
I believe that when YouTube yesterday said, we looked at the content in total, and we don't think it violates our terms and conditions, I disagreed with them. I thought it very clearly violated their terms and conditions. Where I am thinking about it now is the application of those terms and conditions violations. Because a similar thing happened with Alex Jones as well, which was there's lots of way smaller players that are violating these same terms and conditions, but nobody knows about them. YouTube doesn't know about them. They don't get any attention because they have no audience. So I think there's the question of the application of these terms and conditions in a way that's sort of fair and is not ultimately going by the public blowback or reaction to situations. Because that's how Adpocalypse 1.0 happened.
It is an attempt at humor. I don't think it's funny. and you are targeting him for his sexual orientation, but is that something that should get somebody deplatformed? No. Guys, listen. There are literal ISIS attack videos on YouTube. Literal ISIS attack videos. That would be something that crosses a line way more than Steven Crowder ever crossed there.
YouTube is now cracking down on any creator who offends somebody. This is basically what we have learned over the past 24 to 48 hours. You don't have to violate YouTube's terms of service in order for them to penalize you if you whine enough. So if you whine a lot, you can get YouTube to pull down creators' videos, thousands of creators' videos. If you whine a lot and claim that you are a victim and suggest that you are being harassed.
So I understand that you've been bullied or whatever. Don't watch the videos, turn off the comments on your own videos, and now all you have to worry about is downvotes.
They're not open forums. They're ongoing exercises in control and censorship. The question is, how long will the rest of us stand for this?
YouTube is once again showing its incompetence. They have reacted to a serious issue dealing with somebody who is bigoted and homophobic and have dealt with it in a way that directly impacts a ton of other channels that have absolutely nothing to do with this story.
And again, the crisis that we're in, if you're from the perspective of a content creator, is at Steven Crowder's feet. Not Carlos Maza for saying, hey, I read your terms of service. They're being violated. I'm not asking you to demonetize political content. I'm not even asking you to go after any type of, and by the way, you shouldn't. Don't demonetize Dave Rubin's show, in my opinion. That's in the lane of mock the hell out of it, debunk it, work it over.
To leverage their power both as an individual who's an LGBT content maker and as a giant corporation in order to eliminate their competitors and all opposing viewpoints.